Hey, it's Robert Clickybeard, the host of the Commercial Landscaper podcast. These podcasts challenge you to grow as a leader, to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, and to 10x your company. I really encourage you to enjoy the show, share it with teammates, fellow business owners, and subscribe. That helps us grow our community. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. Excited today to be joined by Dan Simpson. Dan, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Robert. Great to be here.
Yeah, you too. I know we've been going back and forward with emails, but glad we finally got you scheduled, and hopefully people can understand us as we both have a little bit different accents. But as long as you and I can understand each other, then that's all that matters.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, we'll get along just fine.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background, Dan?
Yeah, so I've got a really varied background. I actually, straight out of school, went into construction, worked in construction for 5 years, concreting, did some landscaping as well in that time. And then I ran businesses. I worked in tourism 5 to 10 years and ran businesses in both Edinburgh and Scotland, as well as Sydney, Australia, where I'm originally from. And I moved to the US 5 years ago and started working at Fleetio as a product marketer. And what product marketers do, I spend a lot of time on site with customers such as landscapers, really understanding their operations and then going back and communicating with our product and engineering teams to make sure that we're building solutions that really fit like the real world needs of those companies. And then when we build things, I make sure that our customers understand what's being built for them, how they can use it, and where they can get the most value from it.
Okay, awesome. We'll definitely dive into that. I know fleet management and watching drivers comes up a lot during our peer group meetings. So maybe start off with this. I know I used to have a GPS system. Probably dating myself here now, probably 10 years ago. What type of changes have you seen in terms of either the products offered over those last few years?
Yeah, the advancements, I think one of the biggest changes that's happening right now is those GPS telematics really being included in that vehicle. So they're coming out from the manufacturer built in. And that is giving us an opportunity to pull so many more insights. And I think it also just reduces that barrier for entry for fleets where you're not having to purchase a separate piece of hardware to be able to get just even things like odometer readings, which are so crucial for fleet maintenance.
So is that a particular manufacturing you deal with, or how does that work? If somebody's, say for example, somebody listening to this show right now and thinking, I need to buy 5 more trucks here in the next, few months, what does that look like in terms of getting them either fitted or, did they come with the trucks?
Yeah, so now with a lot of OEMs are producing, like Ford and GM are rolling vehicles out where the telematics are just baked in to that vehicle. And so at Fleetio, we help companies track, analyze, and improve their fleet operations. So we actually allow you, no matter where you are pulling telematics data from, so if it is someone like GM or Ford and you're pulling it directly from that vehicle, or if you're using a telematics provider, so you've installed hardware in that vehicle, we allow you to pull that all into one place so that you can use that to set up preventative maintenance schedules. You can understand in real time what issues are present in vehicles, where they are. And so for someone looking to set up telematics, they do have different options. The main thing is just understanding what you are wanting to pull from that vehicle. One of the most important things is just that odometer reading, because it's so important for you to stay ahead of your maintenance. We hear that 50% of fleets are in a situation where over half of the maintenance that they're completing isn't scheduled. So it's unplanned maintenance, which is more likely to be unexpensive. And so whenever you're, especially for landscaping companies where you are providing a service, but you're also in the business of fleet because you have so many assets, like so much of your capital is tied up in that assets to be able to provide that service. And so for any landscaper, it's really important that you're keeping track of your vehicles and making sure that you have preventative maintenance in place so that your vehicles are not only not getting those costly repairs and having breakdowns, but you're not in a situation where vehicles have extended downtime.
We start asking questions. If we do any site visits, we start asking about the fleet and, that maintenance program, usually get that deer in the headlights type look. So just being able to track that mileage helps probably a lot.
Yeah, it does. And a lot of companies that come to us are in a situation where they do have systems in place. And as those companies are growing, those systems start to stretch and then fail. So when I say systems, it may be they're managing their fleet using a spreadsheet or they're using pen and paper to keep track of where their vehicles are and what needs to be scheduled for service. But what they don't have is just total visibility of the fleet as a whole, and they're not able to stay ahead of things. Like different vehicles have different usage, and you need to change maintenance schedules to reflect that. And so pulling everything into a system like Fleetio, it allows you to have control. You get visibility, you can understand what does it cost, what's your total cost of ownership of those assets. And then you're also able to plan ahead and make sure that maintenance is scheduled so that you have replacement vehicles available so that you're not having that downtime and missing out on job opportunities because you have crews that just don't have the assets they need to complete the work.
Talk to me about, that fuel management piece because, here we are, we're recording this late March 2026. Obviously, the world is pretty chaotic right now. A lot of people are looking at oil prices go up. Talk to me a little about that.
Yeah, I think fuel is often something that comes into focus because it does just fluctuate, but based on those larger market events, I think there's different things that we hear fleet managers and business owners really concerned about. Fuel theft is one of them. Just being able to keep track of what is being spent on fuel for what specific vehicle and then understanding and having that overarching view so that they can identify when there's exceptions or anomalies and they can identify fuel theft. So that's something that a lot of customers come to us for. The other thing is just making sure that your fleet is right sized for the jobs that you're looking to do. And an example that I often use is if you have someone driving around who is predominantly doing quotes and they're in an F-150, that vehicle is oversized for that job that they're doing. And you can benefit by identifying that and then being able to downsize to a product like a Maverick that's going to be much more fuel economical. But to be able to do that, you need that overview of your fleet and to be able to look at what's the jobs that our vehicles are doing, how well suited are they to the tasks and the requirements of that job, and then identifying can we make adjustments to improve fuel efficiency across the fleet, like the amount of consumption we've got and bring those costs down. So we have a lot of customers who come to us, they're looking to get ahead on preventative maintenance and to be able to centralize inspections and to be able to identify those issues really early. But what they do once they have that focus is start to look long term on how do I need to plan and what do capital expenses look like and what can I do to really make the future predictable.
Yeah, I'm always looking to see, well, new innovation and things coming down the pipeline, the use of AI, things like camera or cab monitoring. I was actually surprised at this and not quite sure why I was surprised, but I also saw a truck recently that had the camera in the bed of a truck. And I was thinking that's interesting because, not only you seeing the potentially their type of driving, but also could you use that then when they're on the job site to see how the crew is performing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, It is really exciting, the advancements that we're seeing, and especially with the introduction of AI, where around safety, we're seeing a lot of improvements with cameras. For your fleet maintenance, we're also able to do a lot more. So, one of the things that Fleetio does now is we've introduced AI across workflows. And the first is just making sure that you can get all your fleet maintenance data into one place. So, we have the ability where you can now just drop an invoice into Fleetio and it will automatically create a service entry and include all of those line items for you. So that was something that took time, a lot of time before, and now you're able to just drop 30 invoices into Fleetio and it will automatically create those entries and assign it to those vehicles. So you get that visibility into what's actually being spent, which gives you more data to be able to make decisions. One of the other areas that is an exciting development is also just helping you make better decisions around your fleet. So we have AI baked into workflows that helps you triage issues. So fleet managers are looking at, hundreds, if not thousands of vehicles, and there's different issues that they need to go through and identify what needs to be prioritized. We're using AI to do that for you. So just pulling forward those issues that need your attention at the earliest possible moment. And then also when you're getting repairs done at external shops, flagging anomalies where there could be line items charged that just don't fit what was requested. And so that fleet managers can pay attention to that and then cut costs that way by being able to ensure that the work being done is the work that's required and extras aren't being added in.
How about things like, I suppose a couple of questions. When you talk about fleet, I mean, immediately people think about your vehicles, your trucks, but I'm assuming that there's opportunities for some of the bigger construction, maintenance type equipment that could also be fitted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Landscapers, I really think landscaping has been ahead of the curve when it comes to fleet management because there are so many assets required to get the job done, and all of those from just needing DOT compliance around inspections through to making sure that things are ready. And you have so much equipment that may not touch the yard because crews just have it out. They may be vehicles that are taken home, equipment that's taken home. And so we do help fleets manage assets that aren't just those road vehicles. They're things like skid steers, for example, mowers, ensuring that the maintenance is up to date on those, and also just knowing where they are, making sure that you know who and what asset a skid steer is currently attached to, what's the vehicle, what's the trailer it's on, so that you can locate tools and assets when you need them.
Yeah. I'm sure you have probably some pretty good stories or case studies around scenarios that have come up. Are you able to sort of share any of those without giving away any names of, things like maybe one of those unintended benefits, and maybe somebody's used their system and then through the analysis through AI or some other situation that came up?
Yeah, absolutely. So ProQual Landscaping in Tempe, Arizona, they're one of our customers. They came to us and were able to reduce their cost by 33%. And when they came to us, they had very fragmented fleet management systems. So they were using spreadsheets and they just had a broken system basically where they didn't get the visibility that they needed into their fleet. And by digitizing their inspections, they were able to get a complete picture of what their asset health was. And then they also put PM schedules in place. So they had proper schedules, preventative maintenance schedules for each of their vehicles, and they were able to plan out into the future and make sure that they had capacity to do that preventative maintenance, but also to be able to ensure that they had replacement vehicles for those crews when those vehicles were being repaired or maintained, that they could still get out and do that work. So by implementing a system, they were able to bring those costs down and make things a lot more predictable for them, where they actually understood the work that was to come and what needed to be done to make sure that they were keeping assets on the road.
Let's take a minute to thank our sponsors. Urcher is a life brand born from grit, founded by Zach Strausser. The mission is clear: to raise $1 million for the trades by supporting vocational training across North America. Urcher makes tough, smart gear built for landscaping and snow professionals who work hard outside every day in all conditions. Their apparel puts safety first, helps crews look sharp, and honors the pride in their craft. Every purchase has purpose, fueling training programs and building a resilient workforce. Urcher isn't just workwear, it's a culture of respect, resilience, and results. When you contact Urcher, mention Wilson 360 and Zach and his team will take well care of you. I think, as you know, the success of any system is not just investing in, whether it be subscribing or buying the system, but it's the ongoing management of the system and doing things like, setting up automated reports and actually diving into the reporting piece. What have you seen, some successful companies, and someone like ProQual in some of that back end management? Because you're right, we've done many a webinar or educational session talking about, using now the data to make more informed decisions. But you need that accurate data in the first place.
Yeah. What you touched on is something that the fleets that really get ahead are systemizing things. And the first is just making sure that you're getting consistent data and data that's high quality. So I mentioned being able to upload invoices and make sure that you have a complete view of your maintenance expenses. That's one of the first things that fleets that really succeed have in place, is getting that visibility, making sure that everything's flowing into one place. I think once you have that, there is just a huge opportunity to automate things that make a really big difference. So one of the things that I see fleets do is automating it so that whenever an issue is detected through an inspection on a vehicle, that vehicle, based on conditions, you can set it so it shows as in shop. And then straight away, everyone in the fleet, it means that crews aren't going to check that vehicle out because there's an active issue for that vehicle. And it also allows your technicians or your fleet manager to prioritize that vehicle for repairs. And the other thing that happens with that is when a work order is completed on that vehicle, it automatically sets it back to available, so that crews know this is now available. And before those kind of workflows were in place, what would happen is a vehicle would have an issue. That issue wouldn't be communicated to the right person in a timely manner. It may have been posted on the dash. It could have been a paper inspection that was sitting on someone's desk. But with technology, you're now able to close that communication gap. So it's a lot closer to real time, where when an issue is detected by a driver, the fleet manager can see that, they can take action as a result. And on the back end, you have vehicles that aren't just going to sit in the shop or in the yard outside the shop once the work's completed, because everyone knows that vehicle's back and ready to go. You touched on reporting, and reporting is another way that you can really standardize things, especially if you have multiple locations. So in Fleetio, you're able to build dashboard and report views so that everyone is getting the same information. So with dashboards, you can have, if you have multiple locations where you have technicians working on vehicles, you can pull forward the metrics related to their performance that matter most. So how long a vehicle's sitting down at a location, for example. So everyone's accountable and understands what you as the fleet manager care about. And then for execs, if you're in a situation where you have an executive team that you need to report to, you're able to standardize reports and then automatically send it to them, or just add them into Fleetio and they can go in and see those reports for themselves. So it adds a lot more transparency, and it also saves fleet managers a lot of time having to pull for that information together and then try and make it palatable for that audience. We've really seen big improvements in the way that fleet maintenance data is not only insights are being pulled from that, but how they're communicated with broader teams. So everyone's on the same page with the fleet's health, and then what priorities need to be put in place to make sure that the fleet performance can continue improving.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just when you were talking there, I was thinking about all the different applications between, being able to track if you've got a bad driver who, is continually in the shop just because of maybe their driving habits, or it could be, could be a bad vehicle, a lemon vehicle where, you're now thinking about, having to replace that vehicle because it's constantly at the shop for one issue, or even, there tends to be sometimes a little bit of a black hole where, when a vehicle issue gets reported, when's a realistic time to get that fixed? Is it half a day? Is it a day? Is it a week? So you're able to track, that turnaround time for, your mechanics and seeing if there's some inefficiency there. So there's so many different applications.
Yeah, there are, and I think that the biggest thing is it's just cutting that noise down. There's so much busy work that fleet managers have traditionally had to do, but when you can automate things and have things as simple as a status changing automatically when an issue is detected on a vehicle, that's something that it saves a phone call. It saves follow-up. It means that everyone's on the same page, and that allows fleet managers to put their attention on the things that really matter, that are going to impact that bottom line, where they're able to really create a fleet strategy. And as you touched on, identifying those vehicles that it's time to sunset them, or we need to switch to another vehicle because we're not happy with the performance of a particular type of vehicle. It really allows them to have those levers that they can pull that make a difference to the underlying profitability of the business.
I know a few people have touched on this in the past, but things like routing, if you've got, a maintenance route and you're always trying to figure out what's the best route. Does Fleetio deal with that piece, or is that something you integrate with something like AI to come up with best routing?
When you say routing, are you talking about just identifying shops that vehicles can be taken to?
More so if you have maintenance jobs, for landscape maintenance jobs, and you're trying to figure out the best route to tackle. Say if you're going to 8 jobs in a day, what's the best route to take that vehicle?
Yeah, Fleetio, we integrate with partners that do have that routing technology, and we do have the ability to show you where all your vehicles are at one time. So typically what fleet managers do in that case is they will use routing, or it may not be the fleet manager, it's more likely to be an operations manager on that front. But yeah, we integrate with those systems, and we can also set up geofences, so you can understand where vehicles are and when they're checking into, for example, a certain job site, or going back to fuel. If you have certain fuel stations that you want your vehicles going to, you can set up geofences and be able to understand when a vehicle is going to a fuel station outside of that, if a transaction's taking place outside of there. So we do have those capabilities to be able to understand where your fleet is, and we work with partners that are able to assist with the routing.
That's awesome. I was even thinking, I mean, if you're able to do those geo fences, do you have then the ability to uh, notify or ping the client when you're entering their property? Because sometimes they often challenge contractors to see if they've actually maintained that site or not. Whereas if you get them, give them some type of an alert that could be beneficial, that accountability piece.
Yeah, Fleetio, so we work with a really wide range of companies. We have a lot of landscaping fleets that use us, but as you know, listening to your podcast, there are so many different avenues that landscaping companies, so many areas that landscaping companies can focus on, and the jobs are so different as well, and those requirements. And so Fleetio, we have an open API which allows you to pull things like those events when a vehicle's arriving at a set location. You can both pull and push that into our system, and a lot of fleets use that, and they will set up data flows so that they are able to customize it to their needs. So you can, if you have software which is built on collaborating with clients of yours, you are able to set up integrations to make those kind of events happen so that you're able to see on both ends what's happening.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything that we haven't covered today in terms of either other technology coming down the pipeline or anything you think would be beneficial for, people listening to the show to understand, and, maybe some, options or benefits that they're not aware of?
I think the main thing is, if you don't have a system in place today that gives you complete visibility into your fleet costs and an understanding of what fleet is costing you, it's really important that you put that in place. And for fleets that may have a system in place, but it doesn't allow them to automate maintenance workflows, just that there's a big opportunity for you to reduce a lot of that busy work so that you can start to focus on the bottom line and what are those cost levers that you're able to pull to, whether that is keeping vehicles longer because it's going to be cheaper for you to just maintain those vehicles over an extended period versus buying new ones, or capital planning, being able to look and say, this is how our business is going to grow, and being able to right size your fleet for that. So to make sure that you have the right amount of assets on hand and those systems in place so that as you grow, your systems and your operations don't break with that growth.
Dan, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. How can people get hold of you, learn a little bit more about your system and some of the benefits they can get from that?
Best way they can do that is go to fleetio.com. We offer free trials of our software. You can also book a demo there. We are really built around ease of use. One of the things that customers say most frequently about us is just how intuitive our system is. So I would recommend going to fleetio.com, jumping in, having a look at our product and using it for yourself. Add assets in, have a look at the types of automation and workflows you have, drag an invoice in and see how easy it is to have a service entry created, and yeah, jump in and use the product, and that's the best way to kind of understand how it's going to fit your needs and to look at how you can customize it to your operations.
Awesome. Well, Dan, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing us what's going on in the fleet management world, and I wish you all the best going into the season.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's been great chatting with you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I hope you're walking away with some great nuggets that you can immediately apply to your business, whether you're in leadership, operations, or you just want to show up every day with that Ironman mindset. Remember, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentional moves, bold conversations, and surround yourself with the right people. If you found value today, subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with others. And again, don't forget to check out Wilson-360 fleetio.com. We have digital courses from account management, operational excellence, leadership development, or some of the other coaching packages we offer. Anyway, a huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you very much. And I'll leave with this. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day.